We're starting off Module 3. This is the last module in the chapter, or in the class, I should say, and the last chapter we'll be dealing with this semester. Our third module is called Chez l'étudiant, at the home of the student. And I love this picture because this is a cité universitaire, une résidence universitaire, à la Sorbonne, à l'Université de Paris. And I cannot imagine walking home to that every day. Today we have one goal. We're going to learn about possessive adjectives. Let's look at this example. Mon frère et ma sœur aiment le foot. Well, we sort of understand the sentence. We understand my brother and my sister like soccer, but the question here is with regard to these words right here. And that's what we're going to talk about. You can see that they're two different words, and we have my brother and my sister. In English, that's the same word. In French, we're going to understand why it's different. Voilà notre maison. Here's another example. Here's our house. And that word looks pretty different than the words we just saw. One thing to know about before we get started is that in French, possessive adjectives agree, both in number and in gender, with the nouns they modify and not with the owner of the noun. A possessive adjective, my, your, his, her, is just like any other adjective. In French, if I'm talking about a blue house or a red car, I need to make the words blue and red agree, masculine or feminine, singular or plural, with the house or the car. The same is true with possessive adjectives. So let's look at this chart, which looks a little overwhelming, but it's not too bad. In the chart, what we have is down the left-hand side, the English equivalents. My, your, this is the informal, like for tu, his, her, its, one's, our, the formal and plural your, that would be of course for vous, and their for il and elle. Now, if the thing that is possessed is masculine and singular, such as, for example, père, a father, then the adjective describing the father, my, will be masculine and singular as well. If the thing that is possessed is feminine and singular, such as mother, then the adjective describing that mother, my, will also be feminine and singular. And lastly, if the thing that is possessed is plural, either masculine or feminine, doesn't matter, such as parents, then the word describing the parents, my, will be plural. So, what this boils down to is that there are three ways in French to say my. Depends on if the thing that is possessed is masculine and singular, feminine and singular, or plural. The same is the case with your, his, hers, its, and one's. The last three are a little bit different. So, for example, if I'm talking about your father, because father is masculine and singular, I'm going to say ton père. If I'm talking about your mother, I will say ta mère, because mother is feminine and singular. And if I'm talking about your parents, because parents is plural, I'll say tes parents. If I'm talking about his father or her father, because father is masculine, I'm going to use son. If I'm talking about his mother or her mother, because mother is feminine, I'm going to use sa. If I'm talking about his parents or her parents, because parents is plural, I'll use se. Now, the last three only have two forms, a singular form and a plural form. This makes it pretty easy and kind of convenient because we don't really need to know if the word is masculine or feminine. Notre père, notre mère, votre père, votre mère, leur père, leur mère. And the plural forms nos, vos, and leur with an S. So let's look back at this example. Mon frère et ma sœur aiment le foot. My brother and my sister like soccer. We know that we're using mon here because brother is masculine and singular. We know that we're using ma here because sœur, sister, is feminine and singular. In the other example we looked at, voilà notre maison, we know that we're using the singular form of our because house is singular. Let's look at some other example. Ils skient avec leur cousin et leur oncle. Because cousin is plural, leur is plural. Because oncle, uncle is singular, leur is also singular. Habitez-vous avec votre sœur et vos parents? Do you live with your sister and your parents? Sister is singular, so votre is singular. Parents is plural, so vos is plural. The one thing that people always ask about are the nouns that start with a vowel. This can be a little bit confusing. If you have a feminine noun that begins with a vowel or a mute H, we just use the masculine form of the possessive adjective. For example, this is une affiche, a poster, and you can see it's the Hunger Games ad. Up here, it is in French. It's a real French poster. It's une affiche, feminine, but look, it starts with a vowel. If I'm talking about my poster, I'm going to go ahead and use the masculine form, mon affiche, to talk about my poster, because the word affiche starts with a vowel. Similarly, une amie, a friend. If I'm talking about your friend, I'm going to say ton ami. This way I don't have two vowels together. Une histoire, a story, is feminine, but it starts with that silent H. So if I want to talk about her story, I'm going to use son histoire. This is so that I don't have two vowel sounds together. Because if I were to use the feminine form, I would have sa, S-A. And French tongues don't do two vowels together. They can't say sa histoire, so you have to say son histoire. The other thing that causes a little bit of confusion, for English speakers especially, is how are we going to know if this is his or her? In English, we have two possessives, and they correspond to the gender or the sex of the possessor. We say his when we're talking about a guy's stuff, or her when we're talking about a woman's stuff. French has three possessives, and we don't care who owns the thing. We care about the thing that is owned. So, for example, if I say il aime son chien and elle aime son chien, this is saying he likes his dog, she likes her dog. This is the same word. Il aime sa maison, elle aime sa maison. He likes his house, she likes her house. Or, technically, I suppose it could also be he likes her house or she likes his house. This is the same word. And lastly, il aime ses oncles et ses tantes, elle aime ses oncles et ses tantes. He likes his or her uncles and his or her aunts. Similarly, she likes her or his uncles and her or his aunts. So how do we resolve this? Most of the time you can tell from context. For example, Alice habite une grande maison. Son jardin est magnifique. So Alice lives in a big house. Her garden is magnificent. We wouldn't say his garden is magnificent because we know we're talking about Alice. So when we're translating to English, we're going to say her garden. Most of the time you can tell from context. If there's ever a case that you can't, just come and ask me. Or ask me in lab. I'll see you then.